Let the whole world know you are great. I will testify every chance I get. The goodness of the Lord is forevermore. I'll tell the world that you are good. I'll tell the world that you are great. Yeah. Oh, I will. Oh, every chance I get is forevermore. I want to video my praise. Oh, I want to video my praise. I want to video my praise. Oh, I want to video my praise. Hey, make them see, make them know. Say our God, you know the lie. We supposed to video our praise. Oh, I want to video my praise. Make them see, make them know. Say our God, you know the lie, you know the fail, you know the change, you know the die, you know the lie. When I go live on Instagram, when I broadcast it on my WhatsApp, everybody come and see what the Lord has done for me. He will do more for you. Tell the world that you are good. Tell the world that you are great. Oh, I will testify. It's forevermore. Everybody, we supposed to video our praise. Make we video our praise. Make them know. Say our God, you know the lie. I want to video my praise. Make them see, make them know. Say our God, you know the lie, you know the change, you know the change, you know the lie, you know the lie, you know the die, you know the die, you know the fail, you know the fail. You can taste and see that the Lord is good. Anybody will say you know go big. Anybody will say you know go blow. Anybody will say you know go large. Anybody will say you know go make them. They know the see, they know the look, they know the fear, they know the fear. I'm too blessed, and then go see him. I'm too praised, and then go watch him. Then go watch him. Then go watch him. Then go watch him. Then go see him. Then go see him. When we accelerate, then go see him. Then go they jubilate. Then go feel him. Then go they celebrate you. I say they go celebrate you. Say amen. In the name of Jesus. In a very, very little time, I go tell you congratulations. And you can tell the Lord is good. And I will tell the world is good. And everywhere I go, I see your people. Many, many reasons to celebrate. Many reasons to thank the Lord. I'll tell the world. You are good, Lord. Jesus, you are so good to me. Every chance I get, yeah. Tell the world you're good. I'll tell the world you're great. Your love is forevermore.
Yes.
I can hear you.
Forevermore.
Hello, everybody. We do apologize for the late start, but welcome to Connect with My Journey. My name is Miriam, and I am your host for tonight. Yes, your favorite host, Abigail, is not on today, but I am your favorite host for today. So we just want to welcome you to Connect with My Journey. In the comment section, make some noise, make some noise. It's going to be an interesting evening. But before we start, I'm just going to take you to a little commercial break. Stay tuned. All right, welcome back. Welcome back to Connect with My Journey. Like I said, tonight's going to be a very interesting night. My name is Miriam and I am your host. If you have any comments or questions, do not be afraid to put it in the question box or the comment section below on YouTube. But what I want you to do is to share it with your family and your friends, share the link, put it on your various social media platforms. Tonight, we are going to delve into a very interesting conversation with an interesting man of God, one I tend to annoy. The only one who actually calls me, well, one of them that calls me Yah in the ministry. But I'm so excited to interview this man of God, you know, especially hearing what he's been through. We can't wait to share with you all. So without further much ado, and with loud noises, I can't hear you, but with noises and comments and fire emojis, please put it in the comment section as we introduce our lovely guest of tonight, Mr. or Minister Peter Wilson.
Thank you.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. Tonight, I'm not going to call you uncle. I'm going to call you Minister Peter Wilson. So, welcome to our show.
Thank you very much.
This is Connect with My Journey, as you are aware, and we're very excited to have you. So, without wasting much time, and for the audience who are watching, who is Peter Wilson? How would you describe Peter Wilson?
That's an interesting question. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. It's indeed an honor to be here. And Peter Wilson. I would say I'm the first of 4 at the moment, siblings, but I was originally the 3rd of 7, but unfortunately I lost some of my siblings, so I'm very compassionate, particularly when it comes to the things of God, really. I know sometimes it doesn't seem like that, but I am. I'm passionate. I would say I'm tough. I'm tough, but on the inside, because on the outside sometimes I feel very vulnerable, if I can use that, because it doesn't come across as, you know, a tough guy, but I think I am inside. I love people, and I love to develop people. So I would say that perhaps is what drove me to social work, because, you know, to advocate for people was a passion for me.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, and I love to sing. I mean, I'm a performing artist. So I did theater,
Okay.
arts, so I've been doing that for a bit. And then in the UK, I was artistic director for a couple of companies, theater companies.
Right, okay.
Yeah. So that's all
wow.
about me.
You sound like you have a handful of activities or things you've done in your lifetime. By the way, if you saw the advert or the commercial, you would have seen him in an Aladdin or a genie in a bottle outfit. Yes, indeed, that was a part of his theatrical days. So thank you for answering my question. But let's get into your upbringing. Obviously, we all know who you are, but not many people know where you come from, how you were brought up, who your family are, your siblings, your parents, etc. Even the church you grew up in. So I want us to go a bit into that. So if you just kindly just maybe explain to us your upbringing, where you come from, etc.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Like I said, I'm the first of 4 siblings at the moment. We've lost both of our parents. You know, my dad a couple of 3 years ago, and my mom followed suit. I was born in Ho, that's in the Volta region. my mom was a nursing, officer there, so that's where I was born, and she was transferred to Winneba, and so we grew up, in Winneba, and growing up, I had an elder brother who I looked up to very much, because he was very intelligent and strong, and I mean, he is a perfect gentleman. And yeah, so my parents were, Methodist. They were both choristers in the Methodist Church. But then when we moved to Winneba, in the central region, my dad struck an acquaintance with a Catholic priest.
Okay.
And so I don't know how the conversation started, but then they had to go for marriage blessing in the Catholic Church, because obviously you can't take communion if you're not, your marriage is not blessed in the church.
Right.
And so we started attending Catholic. So I was born into the Catholic Church,
Okay.
basically. I served Mass at a very young age. And then after a while, I mean, I for some reason, I knew that, this is the path God has chosen for me. I kind of knew that. I didn't know what I had said to my parent, because I got to know about it later on when I was in the UK. But, anybody that asked me what I was going to do in the future, the first thing is I'm going to be a priest. I don't know how it happened, but when I finished my GCSE Form 5, I had to continue to do sixth form, but then I had to go to Emisano, which is the Catholic seminary.
Okay.
And the reverend, or the father, we call them at the time, just brought me a suitcase full of cassock and chalice and all the bits that I would need.
Right.
And I didn't even know that he knew.
Okay.
So that's how kind of, things started for me. And I think around about from 12 years, my dad left the Catholic Church.
Okay.
And then my dad was an account manager at UAC.
Oh, wow, okay.
And my mom, obviously, I said, a nurse. But for some reason, he fell ill, and that's where the temple that he eventually went to, that was where he sort of got his healing,
Right.
so to speak. So we were kind of ushered into that kind of temple, which is the Zionist temple,
Okay.
which I got to know later on that is an occultic temple. And so that's where I kind of grew up. And yeah, I suppose they were sort of grooming us for to take over, myself and another gentleman. I wouldn't know why, but I would guess that maybe they saw something in me, and they wanted us to sort of take over. So yeah, that's basically my childhood.
Right.
And then what else?
Let me ask you a question. A
Yes.
few questions regarding your father being ill and having to go to the temple to get his healing. Obviously, we all know that. We all quote this famous scripture, "By his stripes we are healed." And if he was in the faith, why did he run to the temple for healing rather than possibly running to the house of God for safe refuge and for healing? Why do you think he ran to the temple for healing instead?
I think my dad, let me say, he was searching.
Okay.
So the kind of sickness, from what I'm told, like they believe somebody, would do something
Right,
against
yeah.
you. And so he had gone to a few places, including some spiritual churches.
Okay.
But then nothing was happening. And so I think a friend of his directed him to this person who uses herbs and stuff as well.
All right. Okay.
So I don't know whether he thought that was the line of work or he actually knew. And then when he went there, after a while, he sort of became well.
Okay.
And he got stuck there. So he was the second in command to this man.
Right. Okay.
And so, yeah, the temple, so the temple is built like the temple of, God,
Okay.
the tabernacle.
Right.
So you have the outer court, you have the inner court, and then you have the holies. And so my dad and the partner will be inside, and then myself and a few elders, I think about 7 of us, we were on the inner
court. Okay.
and because of that, we have to do Sunday service as well, because Sunday service is not for everybody.
Okay.
It's just for the inner people. And yeah, so that was pretty much my life until I went to university.
Okay. Wow. So when did you realize it was an occultic ministry?
I suppose you kind of knew, but you don't have understanding. You don't have knowledge of what really is all about. And I started SU when I was in the secondary school. But even that, my dad, he knew the scriptures so much that people come to him, and particularly Jehovah's Witnesses, they dare not come.
Of course.
Because he would displace them.
Right.
You bring a scripture and then he quotes something to counter that. And so I thought that was really, and then they will have ways of manipulating the gospel.
Okay.
And making it sound like it is the truth.
Right.
And so, so like I said, I kind of knew, but I didn't think it was wrong.
Okay.
If I can put it like that.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was wrong because of the kind of information I was receiving and the kind of, but also I realized that, even at that young age, I was seeing visions.
Okay.
And it was being used, like when people come to the temple to seek for help, and then we do the service and stuff like that. These visions will come sometimes, particularly to, the issues that people had.
Okay.
And so I felt that if it was wrong, why would I be having those visions even at that place?
Right.
But then prior to that, I had I suppose this is everybody's childhood. Sometimes things like that happen. Sometimes you realize that you do things in your dream, when you are a child, and you have when you are a child and you are being chased in your dream, you always have an escape point. For me, I had like gadgets on me.
Okay.
So I have tabs that I knew whichever button and the function of it. So I was for about 6 years, or I would say 6 to 7 years, I was having a recurring dream.
Okay.
And that dream, every single night, I sort of kind of feel that my spirit has left me.
Wow.
And then it would take me to a place, sometime an uncompleted building or a school or whatever it is. And each of these times there will be somebody needing my help.
Okay.
So either, my mom, or there is always somebody who is in trouble.
Right.
Or being tied down somewhere, or being going to be sacrificed,
Okay.
kind of thing. And I'll always get there at the right time and find a way to disarm the people, release the victim, and then put the person behind me,
Okay.
at my back. And then I press those buttons and I'm gone.
Wow. Okay.
And strangely, as if I knew where all these people lived. So I will always take them to their home
Right.
before I go home. So by the time I wake up in the morning, I'm so tired. And I was telling my dad all this, and he never, for once, said anything.
Okay.
All he said was, I should be careful. But on this particular day, actually twice really. One, after I released this person, I wasn't fast enough to lift off, and so somebody hit me with a piece of wood on my thigh, right thigh. And then I got up in the morning. When I woke up, there was that burning sensation on there. And this other time, I went to a school, and it was my primary school, the primary school that I attended. And there were a lot of people there, so I kind of struggled to get to the core, the center of, to know what was happening. And on getting there, I realized that there were a group of people praying and, gathered around somebody, a lady. But I could see the woman from within the circle,
Right.
and I could see her intestine. I could see everything that was in her.
Wow.
So her body was like translucent, so I can sort of see through.
Yeah.
And people were saying that she's dead, and this, a whole lot of people were crying. And then I realized that there was something greenish that is clouting around her heart.
Okay.
So I spoke to the person leading the prayer, and I said, do you want me to try? And then he stepped back and he said, please.
Try praying, is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I stood behind this woman, and I held her from behind like that. And I said to her, I'm going to pray. You might not hear what I'm saying, but when you hear me mention Jesus, just open your mouth.
Okay.
And so I did that for a few times, and each time she opened the mouth, the green substance came out.
Wow.
So it wasn't too long, and then she sort of regained consciousness. Everybody was jubilating. And in the midst of that, I kind of noticed that my left arm, I could see through myself.
Wow.
And I could see the green substance
Going through.
climbing.
Wow.
So I sort of held my arm from here and drained it out. So in the morning, I told my dad about this. And seriously, I've never been reprimanded like that, ever. He was so furious. He was angry, as if it wasn't a dream, as if it was something that I had planned to do. And his motive was, or his statement was, that you have to be equipped.
Okay.
You have to have that spiritual backing in order to do things like that.
Right.
Because you could have died. And in fact, the way he sounded, it scared me. It really scared me to the core. And so that's when I decided, you know what, I think the best way to stop this from happening is to do something. And that is to take alcohol.
Okay. So before we get to that, you've mentioned about the whole vision or dreams aspect. But before I even get to the giftings, I want to go back quickly to the courtism. There is a question on YouTube where they state, what was your mother's take on you joining your dad at the temple? And by the way, did your mom join the temple too?
My mom used to go there as well.
As well. Did she believe in what your dad was doing?
You see, the thing is, at the time, dads, they are like, untouchables. And whatever they say is what happens in the home. I believe that my elder brother, he didn't even stay at home anyway. And nobody could talking to do anything. So that's one. And then the last one, he refused
To join.
and he stood against my dad.
Okay.
And for that reason, my dad, I don't know, sometimes you talk to him and as if he pronounces curses, and he, he thinks he's a wizard and he's this and he's that. And I sat down one day and I said, why do you think that, because he's not joining, he's like this? And he said, you don't have to believe, nothing is, face value and stuff like that. But my mom also had some sort of gift as well of healing and stuff like that.
Okay.
And she helped, a lot of people, because I remember even when we were kids, President Achampong and some of the big guys used to come there.
To the temple.
To the temple.
Okay.
But there was a situation in my life when I sort of misbehaved. And then I fell ill. So when they brought me to the temple, the revelation came as to what I had done, involving a lady. And my mom sort of got into that, spirit kind of thing,
Okay.
and was speaking. And she said to my dad and the man that, how can you blame him? He's only a child under your care. But you guys are doing the same things. So why do you blame him? And the man was so angry, so very angry, that after the service, my dad asked me to go and apologize to him. And when I went to apologize to him, he said to me that my mom is a witch.
Okay.
And that is where things started going
downhill.
Yeah.
So in essence, your mom joined, she was fine with it first until something like that occurred.
Yes.
Okay. So how would you say your father felt when you left the temple? Was he, because you mentioned like the younger one obviously refused to join. Did he disown you when you left the temple? Did he become angry with you? Did your relationship break with your father? What happened?
Well, I think that my dad and I, we sort of have a connection. I don't know why, but, even though that fatherly love wasn't there, but deep within, there was something that sort of connected us. I don't know if it is the temple thing, but, because he knew what was, because, like those times, people even come round the house, and then they say they want to pray for you or they want to do this. And each time they came, they will call me out. And then they will say to my mom, be careful with this son. He's going to be this, he's going to be that. And so I don't know if that was it. But I think that God had a plan.
Yeah.
Because I didn't actually leave the temple. When I started university, it sort of gradually took me away from.
Okay.
And then I would come home once a while to visit, and I would go there. And even when I came to the UK first time and then I went back, I visited, but I wasn't particularly involved.
Okay.
So it was just that drew me apart.
Right. Okay. So it didn't affect the relationship.
I think it did. I
Right.
think it did, because he became very withdrawn.
From you.
Well, but he was withdrawn from the children anyway, so I wouldn't know if it was just for me. But then when he was ill and I went to see him, he made a statement, because my siblings would not go to him because he left my mom
Okay.
and then went to be with somebody else.
Right.
Apparently he was there. He'd been in that relationship for a long time.
Oh, wow. Okay.
My mom suspected, but, and I had a vision one day. about him and the family he's got.
Right.
So I told him that this is what I saw. And so no, that cannot be true. That might be evil spirit. You know, so I'm like, why is it that every time when things don't go according to your way, you term it to be an evil
So
spirit?
he saw your gift as an evil spirit.
Because I spoke about
The truth.
his relationship with this woman.
Okay. Wow.
But then when I went to see him with my siblings, he said that they are there because of me.
Okay.
And he understands why I would leave the UK and come and see him. Actually, I spent about 2 weeks staying in a hotel where he was,
Okay.
just to visit him every single day, and that we have a connection.
Okay.
And he just made that remark, but he didn't explain further.
Right. Wow. Thereafter. Okay. So when you left and you found faith, for example, did you try and bring your father into the faith, or you just left him in the occultism?
First of all, I was in and out of faith.
Right. So you yourself couldn't persuade him.
I wasn't really that strong. So even though I was in the SU, you know, I will flow and I will be okay, but it will get to a point I'll backslide. And so I knew that I had to talk to him. People were talking to him. People were coming to him. He wouldn't listen. The thing is, you cannot, and I felt that to go to my dad, I need to know the Bible. I need to understand what I'm going to.
Because you can counteract.
Exactly.
Okay.
You know, so that kept me from even talking to him. But I mean, occasionally when we're having a communication, I would just drop hints.
Something. Yeah. Wow. Okay. I want us to quickly move on onto your gifts. Is it something that's still happening now? Do you receive visions and dreams and stuff?
Yeah, it's not as often as
before.
because I think that the atmosphere, everything was in that, dimension. So, but every now and then.
You do have it. Okay, so before you'd see it, you would run to your father, explain to him. He would either knock it off or he would tell you to be careful. Now, when you do see these visions, etc., I know you don't have it as often as you did before, but now when you do have it, what do you do? How do you control it, or how do you work with it?
I think that the giftings, as Paul says, it comes with maturity. And, when you don't have understanding, you do things anyhow. Yes, I mean, I know that even until I came here, that's in ICC, I still used to talk to people. So like if I'm serving under a pastor or whatever it is, and I see anything like that, I will tell them exactly what I've seen.
Yeah.
I wouldn't ask for interpretation. I wouldn't ask for anything. I would just tell them that this is what I saw.
Okay.
And I leave it with them to do the
To
interpretation
do with it
themselves.
Okay.
But now I think I'm more matured. I'm gaining understanding, and I can then sort of relate, and I can have meaning of it.
Right.
So sometimes it might be a personal thing, or it might be for somebody. What I've done now, or what I do now, is to either pray for the person. If I feel there is an opportunity for me to share, then I have to know how to share it.
Okay.
But otherwise, I just pray about it.
Okay. Wow. I just wanted to find out. So, would you say, because obviously before when you were younger, you weren't too sure in terms of where it came from, etc. So now, do you 100% believe that it was a gift from God, or do you think it was provoked by you being a part of the occultism?
I think that it was a gift from God, because even when I was here and in the Christian faith and prayer whatever it is, it would come.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, the last time when sometimes it varies. It comes in different grades and strengths, and
Okay.
there are times you would have a very prophetic kind of vision, and that is relevant to something that is happening in somebody's life.
Right.
And this woman had a daughter who was in the police custody. She was going to be, repatriated because she used her sister's passport to travel. So we're praying for. I mean, the first time we saw this woman and we prayed, I had a group in Stoke-on-Trent that we're praying together, and these are Assemblies of God, And the very first time we saw this woman and the husband, the revelation came.
Okay.
So I told them.
Right.
And the woman just screamed and said, "This is my house you are describing in Kumasi."
Oh, wow.
And then when she was about to go to court, again, there was another revelation that talks about what was going to be the sentencing of the girl, what was going to happen, even the lawyer that they would have, a description of the lawyer and everything. She came back and said it was spot on.
Wow. So you'd say you have the prophetic ministry upon you?
That's the thing. I don't know.
You don't know.
I'm still searching. I'm still asking
Keep
God.
searching. God will definitely answer.
But when in 2011, when I had my first album, I was invited to a church. It's a prophetic school in London. I think it's Prophet Komi, I believe, and to sing there.
Right.
And so they said to me, they have a song that they want to minister themselves. So I should minister that song with them before I do mine. So anyway, I did that. And just after that, the pastor came and picked the mic to preach. And then he asked for me. He says, "Where is the gentleman who just sang?" And I didn't even know what to do. But then he said, "Bilson, something son, So I said, "Wilson." And then he said, yes, get up. I was, wow. Why have you decided to do this to yourself? And I'm like, okay, I don't know where you're going with this. And then he said, "You've been avoiding God, but you can't do it. A lot of people are depending on you, and you are letting them down." In fact, that broke me. To think that I'm letting people down. And then he said that, "Oh, you think that you will make money from your music? No. That music or that gift is only to enhance your prophetic ministry." That's the first I heard.
Wow.
I have never heard it again. So I really cannot tell.
I mean, seek the answers from the source himself, which is God. He'll definitely guide you. So have you had any visions about me?
I would have told you.
Of course, I'm joking. Staring off quickly and using this as a segue to move on. You mentioned earlier that you drank to subdue the gifts that you had back in the day. Talk me through briefly, because we don't have much time, but talk me through your moment of darkness where you fell into alcoholism just to subdue the gifts that God gave you.
Yeah, I thought at the time that was the only, and it worked. Once I started drinking, I wasn't having those dreams and stuff again.
Okay.
And then, as with everything, you gradually get into it, and then it becomes like it consumes you, to some degree. And so I felt that it was something that I had done and you realize too late as well, because I look back and I would say that for about 20 years, I wasted that time. Wasted it. 20 or plus years, I wasted it doing nothing. I wasn't even attending church.
Wow.
When I came to the country, even though the first place that I was invited to was Alabaster, I remember. And he's on TV now, Kofi Odro,
Okay.
Prophet Odro. And he said the same thing about what God wants me to do. But all this while, I had this feeling that, okay, if God really wants me, then he will make it happen, regardless. You know, and I bought into that lie. And so I lived my life freely without talking to God,
Right.
without putting myself in that place where I would be relevant or he would use me. So
Okay.
that's...
Wow. So you basically ran away from your calling. You ran
I
away
did.
from purpose from a very young age. In fact, even as you grew, until God arrested you. Could you give an advice to the people who are watching that when they do find themselves in that position, how or what should they do to overcome it?
You know, when Pastor started talking about when men slept, it resonates so much with me, and each time I kind of look back and I can reflect, you know, and that is the only advice I can give to people, really, because when you sleep, that is when the enemy
comes.
and he said the enemy is always around the corner.
Yeah.
He's not gone away. He's looking for a way in.
Yeah.
And so when you sleep, then there is always an opportunity for the enemy to step in. And as we know, he comes to steal, destroy, and kill. And so whether it is your vision, whether it is your purpose, whether it is your dream, whether it is, you know, your giftings, whatever it is, he has to make sure it doesn't work.
Right, yeah.
But my humble advice, I mean, I know that there are a lot of young people out there, you know, have this passion for God, they want to do. Please go ahead and don't let anything stop you. If you do not have understanding, align yourself with a man of God you believe. Because I mean, even though I went back to God, I served under men of God who, even though they knew, they were not supportive.
Okay.
Until I came here.
Right.
You know, so, and since I've been in ICC, I have seen the transformation. I've seen the growth, you know, and I was telling my wife the other time that if I had been here even 10 years, I would not be the same. And so I'm pleading, please, God has a gift for you. God has a plan for you. Whatever it is, go to God for understanding. Go to God for direction, because it is only Him that will order that step. Because the gift is His and is given to you. So please, do not waste that time, because as Pastor said, you will always start from the beginning. It doesn't matter how old you are. Once you blow that chance and you come to know, you will have to go and start from the beginning.
Yeah.
And that is a lot of time wasted.
Definitely. So, just before we go on commercial break, I just wanted to find out, have you sought for forgiveness from God? Especially running away. You know, we know the story of Jonah, who ran away. He ended up in the whale's stomach. Have you sought for forgiveness? Obviously, you fell into pits, your own pits as well. You fell into your own whale, which was the alcoholism moment. But now that you found your feet, have you asked God for mercy from running away from the calling, from even being a part of the occultism? Have you asked for mercy from God?
Well, I would say I have. But you see, one of the things that actually, it wasn't just about stopping, but then something happened that actually took me away, because I couldn't face God.
Right.
And this was on 3 occasions where I felt the Spirit of the Lord tells me to go to a hospital and pray for somebody who had been admitted at the hospital. And I've refused to do that because I was looking at the people around. I mean, my mom is a nursing officer here, and they all know me. You know, how can I go and stand there and pray? I challenged my mom. My mom would tell me to go and do it. I said, no, I'm not a pastor. I'm not going. And each time, these people would die the following day that I was meant to have gone to pray with them. And so that actually broke me, and that was what drove me away, because I couldn't face God. I felt so down, I felt so broken, I could not face God until I spoke to Pastor.
Okay. Right.
And so he sort of gave me teachings, and obviously as a result I was able to then go to God and ask for forgiveness.
Wow. Okay. Thank you so much. So we're going to go in a commercial break right now. We will resume very shortly. If you have any questions, please put it in the comment section, and then we'll definitely let our guests answer them for you. So we'll be back very shortly. Thank you. Welcome back, everybody. We are still on the topic of Connect with My Journey with Minister Peter Wilson. Just to briefly summarize for those of you who are joining in, he grew up in Ghana, but he also had a big family. His father was a part of the occultism, which the family followed suit. Mr. Wilson had the gift of dreams and visions, to which he was even healing within the dreams and visions. But we questioned whether it was from God or whether it was a part of the occultism or whether it was provoked by the occultism, to which he believes it is from God. He then journeyed through life, went on to university, which kind of drew him away from the temple and the occultism. But unfortunately, in order for him to also subdue the gift that God gave him and to run away from purpose, he fell into temptation. he fell into a dark pit. And what provoked him even more and what made him realize that he needs to run back to God was when he failed to do certain assignments in which God gave him to do, which was to heal people. And you know, everyone always falls short, but it takes that one provoking moment to turn things around in your life. And I think that was the turning point for him, to which now he is where he is today, with the counsel of his spiritual father. So now we're going to just still talk about his family, his life in general, but I want us to move on to his life now, presently. You've been through a lot in life, quite a lot of spiritual aspects, I would say. But God being good, you are here where you are now. Tell us about your marriage aspect. I know a brief information about it, but I want you to let the world know, because this is something that a few of us also tend to forget about, or tend to not realize that you need to understand the red flags before getting into marriage. So you are a you were a divorcee, now you have remarried. Okay. Not to get into your family details too much, could you just explain to me what red flags mean and what red flags you saw before entering your marriage? And then we'll take it from there.
Thank you very much. As you know, I have children, and it was during that period where I was doing practically nothing.
Okay.
That's when sort of somebody introduced me to this woman, hoping that she was going to help me. But yeah, it didn't work out. And then I got married. Now, you also have to understand now as a believer, I wouldn't have ventured into that relationship. Mm-hmm. One, because the circumstance or the environment from which I met her. Two, there were, you mentioned red flags, and sometimes as a man you have to look at some of these things. I mean, for me now, the most important is the spiritual standing of this partner, mm-hmm. or whoever, you know, yeah. and being humble and submissive, mm-hmm. you know, not to a fault, but you know, to a degree where you can relate, mm-hmm. with a person as two adults, maybe, if I can put it like that. Now, the very first time I took her to Ghana, I went to church, and then a revelation came.
Okay.
And the question was, what happened to the woman we promised you?
Okay.
You know, so before I came to the UK, there was a revelation about a lady I was going to meet.
All right, okay.
And apparently that was going to be my wife. But I never met this woman, mm-hmm. until I took this wife or ex-wife to Ghana.
Right.
So I challenged the revelation. I said, no, that didn't happen. And so they gave me the, information about this person. Okay. And I knew that I had met that woman.
Before?
I had met her. When I met her, she was pregnant.
Wow.
And I don't know how, but I kind of took her as mine. I helped her. I mean, the child, if the child stands here now, she will recognize, because she was born in my arms, really. So they had a revelation of the woman you were going to marry. Mm. You somehow met the woman. But then there was a connection, pregnant. But she was already pregnant. Yes. Okay, all right. So even though we were good friends, I didn't think of it until I was told about. But then that time I had already met.
Someone else.
Yeah. And the question was, do you think you'll be able to manage this one?
Okay.
Because that is fire.
Wow.
And again, you see, that shows how naive sometimes men can be. Sometimes we look at the beauty, we look at the things that we feel connected to, and we think that we'll be able to deal with whatever that comes out.
Okay.
We don't ask questions, and we don't probe further.
Yeah.
So that, for me, was a red flag. But I felt that, hang on a second, do you know the kind of people I've dealt with, you know? So I'm
This
cool.
is nothing.
I'm cool.
Yeah, it's nothing.
And so when the issues started, I couldn't blame anybody
But yourself.
by myself. My mom was in the UK at the time, and just around 2008, that was when she was about leaving. And she traveled all the way from London to Stoke-on-Trent and said to me, do you think you've done the right thing?
So you had the signs already.
Oh yes.
But you just ignored it.
I ignored it.
Right.
I ignored it. You know, I paid a price.
You did, unfortunately. Unfortunately. But actually, that takes me to my next question. So you just mentioned that you paid the price. And as a Christian, I know divorce is one nobody hits on. But how did you manage to get over this divorce and, in fact, go into another marriage?
So, like I said, this was 2008. So, it's been a while. But it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy at all.
To remarry or to divorce?
No, to get over the divorce.
Divorce, okay.
It was not easy.
And were kids involved? Sorry.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
You know, so it took a long time. It took a long time, and I mean, seriously, I've done stupid things. You know, I can have a bottle of alcohol in my car between my legs, and I'll be drinking whilst driving.
Wow.
I was completely gone.
That was the effect of the divorce.
Yes,
Wow.
I was completely gone. And I kept asking myself that, you know, at least I tried, because I didn't want it to happen.
Yeah.
You know, regardless of what
Everyone
the
was
issue
saying, yeah.
was, I really wanted to, you know, salvage that situation. But when I realized that I've lost it, it's gone, I realized, no, this is it. I'm
Wow.
finished. You know. I think a friend of mine who was a pastor in Germany called me one time and then had me on the phone and then said, listen, don't even let me cry for you, because this is not a man of God. And I said, what do you want me to do? I was crying. But I thank God. So that's when I met this friends, the Assemblies of God guys.
Yes.
And then, you know, I knew them from before,
Right.
but we were not that close. But then after the divorce, they became very close. So we were praying every single day in their home. And then very soon it became like a big kind of prayer group.
Okay.
So people were coming, people were joining in, and, you know, for a while, yeah.
Wow. So it must be hard. I mean, divorce is a hard thing anyways.
It is.
But obviously, especially when you are in the church, divorce can also be a difficult thing to handle or to even face, because of the backlash that you get from
That's
it.
right.
Okay, so now that you have your queen, who is beautiful, by the way, now that you have your queen, how did you meet your current wife? Current wife. And how are you feeling remarrying?
I think I'm blessed. I think I'm blessed, and you know, the time I wasted until getting here should tell you how I felt about it. But when you see, sometimes I know Pastor would always, Uncle, so you have to look. Uncle, you have to look. You know, and I said, Pastor, I'm looking, but yeah. But I think when the time was right, when the time was right.
God
I mean,
made
it says
things-
God makes
All things beautiful
in His own time.
in His own time.
Yeah, and it was a man of God who sort of introduced us.
Okay.
Yeah, so and ordinarily I wouldn't sort of associate with the man, but then for some reason I had to serve him at a particular time.
Right. Okay.
And so it was through that we get acquainted, we started talking. And then he was asking about, the first thing he said was, "Are you married?" And I said, "No." He says, "As a minister, you have to think about it." And I said, "I'm thinking and I'm praying." And then the following day, he said, "Hang on a second, why didn't I think of this woman? I know this woman, da. And then he started talking about the woman. He said, "Uncle, are you okay for me to speak to her about you?" And I said, "Well, fine, there's no harm in trying." And then the rest is history.
All right. So you didn't see any red flags. I'm joking. Don't answer that. She's watching. Okay, wonderful. Okay, so you have children. How are you all coping as a blended family? I mean, I don't want to sound negative, but is everything going okay? Is everyone getting along? Is your wife adapting to the fact that you have children from a previous relationship?
Well, whether it is fortunate, or unfortunate, I don't live with the children.
Okay.
So it makes life a bit easier.
Right, yeah.
Even though I've introduced her to them even before we got married. Recently, I decided, because the two who were here, they can travel on their own. So I took that chance to invite them, because that would be the first time they are actually meeting her.
Right, yeah.
They've seen her pictures and everything. But then, when I brought them here, everything was fine. And, so I think that, and thankfully, I really bless God for their lives, really, because they are both, believers,
right?
And so it's easier to talk to them, and I think that we kind of understand each other in that sense.
Yeah.
My hope is also to help my wife to be able to, because sometimes women, if it's not from things can slightly be a bit awkward.
Of course.
I mean, with all good intention and purposes, they might want to try and do, but then they will be scared as well as to whether they would accept me or not. So that's what we're working at the moment.
Oh wow. We're drawing closer to the end, but before I round up, I want you to summarize your life and possibly give yourself an advice, your younger self an advice. What would you tell younger Peter Wilson if he was here today?
I would say obedience would have changed my life. If I had obeyed God, if I had sought help, knowing where to even seek the help from, and not to run away from God, I think that will be my biggest lesson.
Wow. Obedience. And is that the same thing you would advise the young people now to obey?
Yes, I would. And you see, a
Or
lot of
anyone that's
the
confused
young
in life.
people now, they are already in the faith. Charismatic faith.
Yeah.
That's what I should say. And so they have spiritual leaders and pastors who are engaging and supportive.
Yeah.
And so it's a lot easier.
Yeah.
I came from a different background, and so even knowing who to trust and who to go to was a problem for me.
Yeah.
And until I sort of established and settled in a ministry, that's when I was able to even share some of these issues, because otherwise I would have bottled everything in. And I think that was what the devil was also using against me, because he knew that I hadn't come to that point of releasing myself and forgiving myself and asking God for forgiveness,
Yeah.
and giving myself that permission to be able to, expand and to delve into what God wants me to do.
Yeah.
So he would always use that
Against
against
you,
me.
yeah.
And so I will fall and go deeper and deeper and feel like I can't go to God. And then I'll be withdrawn. And then God has been so faithful.
Wow.
And for me, I think that he has me in his hands, because
Definitely.
from where I've been and what I've done, and for him to bring me round the bend back, it's amazing.
Wow, wow.
amazing.
That's a great advice. I think we can all relate to that advice, so thank you for that. Another question, how would you advise the people, or what would you advise the people to watch out for before entering a marriage? I'm not saying that the first marriage you went into was a bad one, but I want you to possibly advise those who are looking out for the red flags, what to look out for, and obviously ensure that you are entering the right relationship, because what we don't want is to walk in and walk out. It's till death do us part. And it can also have an effect on you as a person, like it did where you were down in the dumps. You did things that you shouldn't be doing. You lost years. Thank God that he restored it for you. But what advice would you give those who are also trying to look out for the red flags before entering into marriage?
I think that the first thing is to know that this relationship is from God. You need to have that understanding. You need to know that this person is indeed who God wants me to. That is the start. And once you establish that, all the other bits, sometimes we look at, or we will fish out for things that are not necessarily there.
Yeah.
And then you see things that perhaps feel or seem like, and then you jump on it. But I think if the person is God-fearing,
Yeah.
if the person is respectful, if the person is independent, because I know we have to support each other, but being independent as a woman, as a man, it's key.
Yeah.
Because you have to carry yourself into that relationship. And if you're struggling, if you are dependent on your parent, and how are you able to sustain a relationship?
Yeah.
And so I think those are the key things. But make sure whatever it is, whatever you do, that you are bonding with this person on the level that God wants you to. Having somebody who is a believer is great, but knowing that I can relate to that person,
Yeah.
I can flow.
Yeah.
We have the same kind of spiritual, it might not necessarily be spiritual standing, but then understanding.
Yeah.
And so our mind is one.
Yeah.
I think that is important.
Wow, that's very true. And last question from me personally, would you say your childhood kind of paved the way to where you are now? Did it shape who you are today? Did it make you understand life in a different perspective?
I think that we are all shaped by our past. There is a circle of what we call the life circle. And as an individual, you have your immediate family. So your parents, your siblings, they shape your life, and then you shape theirs. And then you have your community. That shapes you as well.
Yeah.
And then the society you live in,
Right.
whether you belong to any faith or
Yeah.
whatever, they all contribute to shaping you.
Yeah.
But for me, I think that whatever I've been through has been an eye-opener for me.
Yeah.
Now I'm able to understand, reflect, and then see where I was wrong, what I could have done differently.
Yeah.
And so going forward, I know that I don't have to give myself that room or sleep for the enemy to be able to sow terrors, on my field.
On the field. Yeah. It's a matter of you staying awake now.
That's right.
And not being ignorant of the devices of the wicked one.
Because one thing you need to understand is the devil knows who you are,
right,
or who you will become.
Yeah.
And so he will always try. And I might think that, oh, now I'm okay, I'm standing right. But then even the Bible says I should be careful lest I fall, because the enemy can always come in. So being vigilant is key for me.
And being sober. All right. Thank you so much for coming. It's been such an interesting conversation. Especially how we see you in church, but we hardly possibly know the background of who Peter Wilson is. And hearing it today, that you actually came from such a background, and seeing you today is just a testimony in itself, and is the doing of the Lord. So we appreciate you so much for opening up. So many people that would delve into their past, especially when it comes to spiritual stuff, in terms of the occultism. So many people that would delve into that. But the fact that you have, we don't take it lightly at all. So thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you. We thank your wife for releasing you to be with us tonight. And thank you all viewers for also staying tuned with us. We thank you for your comments, your support. This is indeed Connect with My Journey. Tonight we interviewed our wonderful minister, Peter Wilson, and we are rounding up. If you have any further questions, or if you want to stay connected with us, please do follow us on all our social media platforms. But this is it. We have drawn to a beautiful end, and we just want to say God bless you so much. Stay tuned, stay connected. We are a part of ICC House of Prayer Luton, 81 Arundel Road. If you are in the Luton or Bedfordshire area and you have no place to fellowship, please do join us. But we thank you so much for everything that you do, and stay tuned for our next episode. God bless you, and stay connected.
Jesus, you are so Yesu